Hello and welcome to the DVB Newsroom. I'm DVB English News Managing Editor Adam Bemma, and joining me today is DVB Bureau Chief Myat and Myanmar documentary filmmaker Thida. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you, Adam, for inviting us.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm very happy to have you both here. Now, Myat, you were recently in Bangkok for a panel discussion on the silencing of documentary filmmakers in Myanmar, and there was also a screening of Shin Daewe's films, and Shin Daewe is a very well-known Myanmar documentary filmmaker who was sentenced to life in prison in Myanmar. So what came out of that panel discussion in Bangkok that you attended?
I was invited to share the situation of Myanmar documentary filmmakers and their production experience after the 2021 coup. And also other panelists are also talking about the state of Myanmar documentary film production. So basically I share about the challenges of Myanmar documentary filmmakers during this military coup period, and how they're trying very hard to document the dark age of Myanmar under the military regime after 2021, and their life is so difficult and they're at risk every day. Especially many filmmakers stay working inside the country, so their life are always at risk and danger. So that's what I share in that discussion panel.
Yeah, right. Of course, the last 3 years, or I guess almost 4 years now since the coup, DVB has put a spotlight on documentary film and allowed filmmakers from both inside Myanmar and in exile to tell stories, nonfiction stories through documentary, and then screen those films to communities and share them online. And of course, they've gone around the world. They've been screened in Stockholm, Sweden, and Oslo, Norway, and of course, Bangkok, Thailand. So yeah, the documentary film genre in Myanmar, how much has it suffered over the last 3 to 4 years since the coup? I'll ask you, Thida, since you're a filmmaker who's had to leave the country and now works from exile in Thailand.
It has not been very easy since the beginning. Even under the civilian governments, we have some kind of challenges. But under the military control, we have a lot of filmmakers suffer a lot, especially in productions, and also it kills a lot of creativity. They cannot make films about, even if it's not about politics, even it's about the life of the people in an artistic way, making stories of humanity. This cannot be possible anymore. And few of our friends, including Pe Maung Same, Shin Daewe, and the other filmmakers that I don't want to name, are also imprisoned. And so I can, these days, we can see a lot of filmmakers, like documentary filmmakers, when we see in the social media or media space, what we can see is the films that are made in the people control area or in the EAO area, or that are made by the exile filmmakers, all about the revolutions. So most of the films, documentary, that can, it is possible to make, this kind of films. But films, anything related in Myanmar, or any stories in Myanmar, it is very difficult to come out, and it is very sensitive, and it's also very risky for the filmmakers to make. As you can see, they can get into jail, and they can be arrested, or anything can happen to their families or their loved ones. So it's very challenging.
Yeah. You mentioned the two most high-profile filmmakers who were sentenced to prison. Pe Maung Same, who unfortunately passed away after being transferred from Loikaw prison where he was held, ultimately reaching insane prison in Yangon and being transferred out to a private hospital due to his worsening health condition, which is very unfortunate. And Shin Daewe, who was a very well-known documentary filmmaker as well, who went to pick up a drone from a delivery of a drone and was arrested and then sentenced to life in prison. We don't get much news since then, despite all these international organizations speaking out and raising awareness about her case. She remains imprisoned, as do many journalists and other unnamed filmmakers, like you said. But I know the documentary film genre really started to sprout and spread its wings, I should say, around 2012, maybe, like after the end of censorship, because of course censorship in Myanmar was very strict, and everything, newspapers, magazines, movies, had to be sent to the censorship board. And then the censorship board for filmmakers, for film, remained in Myanmar. And I know documentary filmmakers had a struggle when they would release their films, trying to screen those films in Myanmar. How did things change with the dropping of the censorship rules? But the fact that censorship still did remain, despite other media not having the strict censorship law prior to 2012. Maybe I'll ask you, Myat, how did things change? How did you see the filmmaking genre, specifically documentary filmmaking, change in those years?
Pe Maung Same was very pioneer. He had been working with AV Media since that time, and then in 2005 he joined the first workshop run by the Yangon Film School in that time. So he's kind of very much how can I say, pioneer in Myanmar documentary film industry, let's say. So since then, he took part in that documentary filmmaking workshop, and then he shared his experience and his filmmaking techniques with the young generation of Myanmar documentary filmmakers. So this is how the documentary film industry developed in Myanmar. So Pe Maung Same is one of them who is a founding father of this industry, let me say that. So he is very influential among the documentary filmmakers in Myanmar. And then after 2010, there is a kind of film censorship policy, a little relaxed, and then more space for the documentary filmmakers. So since then, there are many film festivals, like Watan Film Festival, Human Dignity International Film Festival. And then there is platform that Myanmar local documentary filmmakers can showcase their films, and their, they make the film about different area, different issues, and different culture, politics, everything. So they try to find out every issue as they can. So that's how that documentary film industry has been changed along the line in the history.
Yeah, it sounds like Pe Maung Same played a important role in developing the documentary film genre. Yeah, starting out with historical films, cultural films, which were allowed under the strict censorship laws that were in place, to when they were relaxed, being able to explore more stories from across the country as much as he tried to do. And yeah, you mentioned he was involved with the Yangon Film School. How important of a role did the Yangon Film School play during those years to develop more young talent, more young documentary filmmakers? So
it has started in 2005. We have Yangon Film School has the very first workshops in Yangon. Pe Maung Same also was there, and I was there. Like, we were in the first batch, but of course, Same, already have the skills and the experience, like Mamon has mentioned, and he is very good at all rounder. Like, he can do sound, he can do, he's very good at cinematography, and he's also very good at editing, and as you also witnessed, a lot of films that he directed. So he's very good at directing as well. So he's a very good all-rounder. I am also surprised, like, when I see his first film, as like Father Like Sons, which is about Ramarana, and it's really good films, a short documentary. It's also got a lot of awards. So in that films, he is a cinematographer, and he's the director, and he also edited his own films. So I always wanted to have Pe Maung Same, to edit one of my films, but he's always busy, He's also a good teacher, and he liked to teach, people. Like, he joined a lot of workshops, across the country, like in, ethnic area, also in Yangon, organized by, different organizations. He have been teaching us a lot, the same as Yangon Film School does. The film industry has, of course, developed with the support of Yangon Film School, and it's the school provide different ways of storytelling techniques in the use of camera, sound, editing. So every filmmakers that go through Yangon Film School, they know how to make a film from not just like being a director role or being a cinematography role. Everybody know different skill sets so that they can make their own films. In addition to that, is also bring different people together, especially the group work in our society. The group work is a very difficult one. A lot of people are not very good at working together, but the school brought people together and bring the creativity and make the film rich. So that's a way that the films school has supported to have many filmmakers across the country. And the best part of it is having filmmakers across the region. So participants who join the films, not just from Yangon or Mandalay, big city, but also from different area of the country.
We can say that you don't work with Yangon Film School, but the role that it played in nurturing and teaching many young filmmakers is very important. And Pe Maung Same was associated with them as an instructor, but of course he's taught widely across the country and taught many aspiring filmmakers in Myanmar, including yourself. Now that you're doing your films from exile, how do you try to tell the stories from Myanmar even though you're no longer inside the country?
So I'm interested in stories in Myanmar, and of course here I am, and I have some access that I can be able to make films about Thailand or whatever. But of course I'm stick to the country, to my country. So right now I'm making a films. Right now the project title is called Sisters in War. So it's follow the stories of 4 women who is in the conflict area and who try to, come out of their self, with the resistance. Although they have, faced a lot of loss, how they find themselves, how they stand up, and I want to follow their stories, the resilience. So I'm making a film about sisters in war. In order for me to do that, I have to cross the border because I cannot make films from Thailand. So I find my way to be in the country and make the stories. So that's how I can have access to continue making films in Myanmar. And I also brought one of my old story, which I have been able to edit because it stopped since COVID happened. And now I'm trying to find a way to restructure, the stories and continue making it.
Right, and here at DVB, we have many filmmakers submit their proposals when we put out the call for the short docs contest. I know a lot of the young filmmakers want to make films about the conflict and the resistance to the military coup. So how does DVB select which films they're going to accept and fund to get made?
Actually, at the first edition of DVB short documentary contest, we only had a few applications because I was part of the jury. So it's dozen of films submitted. But year by year, it's increasing. Especially this year, we received about 95 applications across the countries, from exile area, also semi-autonomous area. Filmmakers are living in different area. So when I talk about the filmmakers in different locations, I told in the panel that there are 3 different places filmmakers located under the regime, the control, and the regime control area, and also in semi-autonomous area and border area along Thailand, Burma, or India, Burma, or China, Burma area. So they are everywhere. So they're trying to document the community they've been living together with, and they at the same time they are documenting the situation, how these people facing in the conflict, during the conflict. So their role is so important, I think. And as a DVB, because we can showcase their films. By showing their films, we can also talk about the people of Myanmar and how they are facing, how they are, their challenges and their difficulties. So that's a way the DVB can, what is called, exhibit the real life, real stories of people from Myanmar. So I think the role of DVB is kind of like bridging between the filmmakers and the international audience and local audience as well. So because we've been showing those films not only in different social media platforms, also in satellite TV channels, also like we are showcasing in different events in Chiang Mai, Bangkok, and other countries as well. So this year, DVB plan to do the exhibition film screenings in Australia as well. So that's our plan for this.
And hopefully Canada too.
Hopefully.
Since it's my home country, I would love to see more Myanmar documentary films screened in Canada, more awareness raised in that country. But working in the semi-autonomous areas, some people refer to them as liberated areas under the control of ethnic armed organizations or various groups, resistance groups that oppose the military and have carved out their own area of the country. Is it difficult as a filmmaker? Like, of course, in the rest of the country, regime-controlled area, you go out with a camera, likely be arrested, tortured, and possibly killed, as we've seen. But working in other areas of the country, the semi-autonomous areas that Myat mentioned, do you see any issues? Have any issues arisen for you or for other filmmakers?
There is no issues at all, actually. Holding the camera, I can be there with freely, and of course, with the permissions of people, and people are willing to, provide, me access, to films here and there. So actually, I had no challenges at all, like filming, except from, being afraid of the bombs coming from, the airplanes, or afraid of the mine, the mine risks. So that's the only thing I have to be afraid of. But other than that, I have nothing. And everybody is willing to provide, like archive footages, they have on their phone camera, and, so it's very good.
Yeah, I imagine that, a lot of people in these areas are documenting their daily struggle with their smartphones. And yeah, that's obviously a lot of footage that you could use in a film to help tell the whatever story you're trying to tell. And I do know recently the Karen National Union and the Karenni Interim Executive Council put out media guidelines basically to show media that, okay, if you're a filmmaker or a journalist, you should beware of the risks and all of that. It didn't seem like it was limiting anyone's freedom of expression in those areas, but trying to make sure that people don't get killed or do something stupid, which is important, I think. For filmmakers from Myanmar now, I guess really the only place they can work from are these areas of the country and the other areas, the regime-controlled areas. How do you try to get information and still try to tell stories from those areas of the country?
It is filmmakers experience, it's a very challenging situations, unless they have a kind of a closed space that they can't make. Even if it is, like I mentioned, if it is artistic films, it's nothing about politics, it is not possible. But only right now what possible filming in Myanmar is fictions and music videos and all sort of, social media video. So, of course, they have to play along,
Mm-hmm. Right, because I know the regime has put out rules like don't publish videos that are harming Buddhist culture or harming the image of Myanmar, videos from models or, social media, of course. People post videos every day from all across the country. So it's just a way, I guess, where they're trying to regulate what's being put out there about Myanmar. As DVB, how do we document these stories from those, again, regime-controlled areas of the country? How do we get those stories out, even though we have limited access to those areas as compared to areas where filmmakers like Thida and journalists like citizen journalists that work for us have access to? Of course, I'm sure there are citizen journalists in regime-controlled areas, and one of them was unfortunately killed along with his friend, who was also a freelance journalist. So a DVB CJ and freelance journalist killed in a home in Mon State. The risks are very real. How does DVB try to educate journalists about the risks that they're taking on as they're reporting stories from regime-controlled areas, and then how do we still get these stories out without people getting injured or killed?
Actually, not only this time, actually, people like Pe Maung Same or Shin Daewe, they're very pioneer of the documentary filmmaking society. They've been working under this pressure, like regime, different kind of regime in Myanmar history. They work. The regime cannot stop the will or passion of the filmmakers or journalists. So that is why you can see the flow of information, flow of documentary film from Myanmar, and any, as many as laws, or repressions can be imposed by the regime. But on another, there are many channels that, we can be creative, and we can, use that channels to, disseminate information, disseminate the story of people. So the regime cannot stop. And then the exile media like us, DVB or, ALD or Myanmar, we are here to, disseminate the information through our channels to the people. So we are just kind of medium to, deliver the information from those filmmakers, those courageous filmmakers, those courageous CJs and journalists, and that they're taking risks, their own risks to share their information about people of Myanmar. So we are here to, be ready as a medium to provide information to the people of Myanmar. So that's our responsibility. Yeah,
and Shin Daewe also worked at DVB, I think, earlier on in her career. So she was a journalist before becoming a documentary filmmaker. And so her films and Pe Maung Same's films, I think, as you've discussed, Pe Maung Same's was really challenging the censorship authorities back in the early days to pave the way for all of the great films that come out now, and especially since the coup, because they're so important. Pe Maung Same unfortunately passed away while being held in prison, where he was convicted. And then Shin Daewe also was given a life sentence, and we don't have any real information about her situation now. And we hope that her situation isn't the same as what happened to Pe Maung Same. Maybe Thida, given that you knew them both very well and you're a filmmaker, how does that bode for the future of Myanmar documentary, given that two of its pillars of the genre are, one has passed and the other one is being held in prison for the rest of her life?
It is a great loss for us, because they are also, very brave filmmakers, and also very creative and pioneer filmmakers in Myanmar. So, of course, Ma Daewe being, sentences to life prison has shock to all the filmmakers. Especially one, because she's our friends, like she's doing the right things she's doing, and the other thing is like knowingly how the regimes control the creativity or the work of the filmmakers, so which has a lot of impact for all the filmmakers. And also the incidents of Same being unjustly, held in prison, and also didn't get the right access to healthcare, and not given the right treatments, or given enough care, for him, which is like trying to, kill the filmmaker, intentionally in a different ways. And there are also other filmmakers, and of course, journalists imprisoned. That doesn't mean that, like Mamun mentioned, that doesn't mean that it stopped filmmaking in the country. But of course, it has a lot of impact on the creativity, or on choosing, the stories, and on also like, making, freedoms of movement and freedoms of, using the cinematography tools. It has shrinked a lot in the country, which is quite scary. But the good thing is that there are areas that, has freedom, so some of the filmmakers can be there and, continue making film as well, while others are using their own creativity to continue making stories. Yeah.
Right. And you're planning to screen some of Pe Maung Same's films here in Chiang Mai?
Yeah, so a group of friends and I are now organizing memories of Pe Maung Same, film screenings. And also, in the beginning, we discussed like whether we should, collect the money, in the event. But then we decided, yes, we would do. And the reason we're going to do is we will collect all the, donation or whatever support from the fund, and then we will create a grant under the name of Pe Maung Same. We will create as a, kind of like Pe Maung Same grant. So to provide a film grant every year, at least, one grant to the filmmakers who will create, a very artistic, humanistic films in a creative way, so that we can keep the memories of Hussein every year, and also the memories of, the documentary, in the countries. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Myat, is there anything else you'd like to include?
This year, DVB will organize a kind of film screening, showcasing this different kind of categories of the film, short documentary films, CG shots, and some feature film we're trying to get. So that event will be organized in December. So please, listen to our announcements and join us to see DVB film screening of those documentary contests.
Great. Yeah, I think being able to view Pe Maung Same's films, Shin Daewe's films, as an audience, as people who love Myanmar, it's a great way to learn about the country and the stories that have been told over the years before the transition to democracy, into the unfortunate 2021 military coup, and how more and more young people are turning to documentary to share the stories of the country with a larger audience, and of course through DVB hopefully reaching more of an international audience and raising awareness about the devastating situation in Myanmar. And yeah, I wanted to thank you both for your time today. Thank you, Thida.
Thank you for having me too.
Thank you, Myat.
Thank you so much.